emails to add to the list. So I'm really excited to be here this evening or this afternoon. My name is Sherry Garrett. I do teach at Dallastown Area High School, which is South Central Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy, I'm going to explain basically why offer it, the process behind of how to offer it. It's really a simple process. And once you establish it, it's very simple to offer each year. It was passed this year in March 5th, on March 15th of 2022. So the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy is very, very new. If you need anything, my name is Sherry Garrett. I can be reached at sherry.garrett@dallastown.net. Feel free at any time to reach out to me. I'm getting emails daily, which is exciting, about school districts now offering the seal. So I'm going to take you through the PowerPoint. This PowerPoint will be posted on the PSMLA website. It'll be under the advocacy tab and you'll see Seal of Biliteracy. I'm also going to take this webinar and I'm going to post the webinar also on the PSMLA webpage. It's going to take a few days because I can't post it myself. I'm going to say by next Tuesday, the webinar should be posted. So if you want to refer back to this webinar, feel free. If you have colleagues that couldn't attend, once again, feel free to share that information with them. So welcome. I'm going to get started. This presentation will last about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to have questions at the end. If you want to put them in the chat, that's fine also. So here we go. So the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy is an award given in recognition of students who have obtained an intermediate high proficiency or higher in English and at least one other second language by high school graduation. So the target audience, again, is high school, basically high school juniors and seniors. The benchmark is intermediate high proficiency in English and a second language. So one of them has to be English. Why implement the seal? So the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy encourages students, one, to be biliterate. So it gets them studying a second language. It also recognizes students who are bilingual or multilingual, and it provides accurate documentation of proficiency, which that can be used for colleges, future employers. So it is an official recognition that they are given. So the objectives, one, to encourage students to study languages. What I've found in the last 3 years, like I've started offering the seal at my school district prior to the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. I'm finding more and more students are staying in language study longer. So if you have students dropping out after, say, level 2, this is the carrot you can dangle in front of them to keep them in your programs. It also certifies their level of biliteracy skills, which I'll talk more about when we get to testing. The nice thing is it does provide employers with a method of identifying people who are proficient. So they will know if they're proficient in reading, writing, listening, or speaking, or all of the above. Universities, this is my next goal I'm working on, is to provide universities with a method to recognize and give credit. Messiah College just awarded college credit to one of my seniors this past year for the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. So there are colleges now going to be offering college credit. So that is, again, another carrot to dangle in front of our students. It also prepares students with the 21st century skills. I mean, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity. So it really is something to strive for. And it recognizes our diverse cultures and languages within a community. Many times people aren't aware of the amount of cultures, languages spoken within their area. Now, every state has approved the Seal of Biliteracy except for South Dakota. So 49 states, District of Columbia, it is across the US. Pennsylvania was the 46th state to adopt the seal. Now, this past school year, there are currently 6 school districts of which I'm aware. There might be more, and if you know of more, please let me know, put it in the chat. But these are the school districts that awarded the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy last school year. So School District of Philadelphia, which is in Philly, Greensburg-Salem, which is out towards Pittsburgh, Dallastown, that's my school district, South Central PA, Shaler Area School District, which is out again towards Western PA, Greater Latrobe, Western PA, and Bellefonte, I believe, is towards Philadelphia or north of Philly, if I'm not mistaken. So last year we had 6 school districts that actually awarded Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. The School District of Philadelphia is by far the largest school district offering the seal. Now, they've been offering the seal since 2018. They offered it for intermediate mid proficiency. However, this year I'm still waiting on the numbers they're still compiling the AP results. But you can see their numbers. In 2021, they had 273 recipients. Now, again, that was intermediate mid and higher. Once again, for Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy, it has to be intermediate high or higher. This is my school district. Just to give you an idea, I offered 2 seals. So the top one here, it's for my school district, which is Dallastown. The top seal is the intermediate high, which would be Pennsylvania Seal. So this past year, 2022, I had 19 students receive intermediate high or higher in 5 different languages overall. For those students who didn't achieve intermediate high, I also put in for the Global Seal of Biliteracy, which I'm going to explain also. That's intermediate mid or higher. So I did have 6 students who obtained intermediate mid. So I actually awarded the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy, but also the Global Seal of Biliteracy. So if you have students that you're thinking, wow, they're not going to meet that intermediate high, you can still reward them for intermediate mid, but with the Global Seal. And like I said, I'll get into that in a few minutes. Here's a picture of students from Greensburg, Salem. For graduation, they actually wore their medals for high school graduation. Okay, how do you offer a Seal of Biliteracy at your school district? First of all, I'm going to take you step by step, is adopt the proficiency criteria based on the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. And you're going to see me use those initials PASB instead of typing the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. The proficiency criteria, again, is intermediate, high, or higher. Now, remember, they have to be proficient in English and a second language. So basically, English proficiency, there's 2 ways to verify this. It's either Keystone exams, which most of your regular ed learners take the Keystones. They need to be proficient or advanced. If you have EL learners who don't take Keystone, they normally take the WIDA Access exam. They need a 4.5 or higher on the WIDA in order to qualify. Now, again, this is before high school graduation. So let's say they tested a 4.3 as a sophomore. They have 2 more years to get up to that 4.5 on the WIDA Access. World language. There's basically 2 that most school districts use. The first one is the AP Language and Culture exam. You need a 4 or higher on the AP exam. 4 is an intermediate high, 5 would be an advanced low. You can take the SAT too. Not many school districts use that. I also give the APPLE test. So some students don't take the AP exam. They take the APPLE. They need an I5 or higher, which is intermediate high. I also have native speakers that they came here, let's say in 1st or 2nd grade. I also have those students take the APPLE test for their primary language. So the APPLE exam is also used frequently in most school districts. If you have students who speak a non-traditional language, they do take the OPI test and the WPT, which I'll get into that in a second. Now, native speakers. If you have native speakers that did not come to your school district, all right, until after 8th, or say they came here in 8th grade, you can use their transcripts from their home country. This includes any country outside the US and also in Puerto Rico. So if you have native speakers, you don't have to test them for their first language proficiency. You can use their transcript if they had 3 years of instruction in, let's say they're from Puerto Rico, 3 years of instruction in Spanish, And that would then qualify if they had an 80% or higher average. So that way you don't have to test some of your native speakers. Now, if they came here before 8th grade, you do have to assess their Spanish if they're a native Spanish speaker. Okay, once you basically establish that criteria, intermediate, high, you meet with administrators. So when I started this a couple of years ago, I met with my superintendent, I met with the high school principal, and I met with the head of our guidance department. So I met with 3 people that I needed there to explain what this was. So basically explain the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy and why offer it. Also sell the idea by explaining the benefits for the students. And again, the students, they glow when they get this reward because it's going to help them in college to place higher, to get college credits. Also is very beneficial for getting jobs. It also creates a lot of PR for your school. If you have school districts that likes that public relations, they're going to buy into it. You also need to explain the process of implementing the seal and any cost associated. The proficiency assessments are $20 if you give the assessment for the Seal of Biliteracy. So it's $20 per exam. If you order medals, the price varies, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so once you meet with administrators, explain what the seal is, why you want to offer the seal. I then gathered data on who are my candidates for the Seal of Biliteracy. If you have an EL population, that's half of my school's population as far as getting the Seal of Biliteracy. Half of the students that obtain the seal are EL students. The other half of the students are students taking upper level world language classes. So we also have exchange students. Those students normally also qualify depending on their English scores. If you have deaf and hard of hearing students, you have classical languages, ASL classes, all of those are possible candidates for the Seal of Biliteracy, but principally most students are EL and students taking 4th, 5th year of a language or higher, and exchange students. I meet with juniors and seniors who may qualify for the seal. So I call the students in, I have a big meeting, I explain the Seal of Biliteracy and the purpose. I actually use this PowerPoint to them to explain the seal. I poll the students, I say, okay, can you read, write, listen, and speak in the target language or in English? If they say yes, I'm like, okay, do you want to take the proficiency test? If they're interested, I then sign them up onto a list, and then I make sure that they are tested. Either they're taking an AP exam or they're taking the Apple test. Now, why only juniors and seniors? Testing should occur no sooner than 18 months prior to graduation. So yes, I can test juniors and I can test seniors, but I can't test freshman or sophomore because the data, the proficiency levels should be accurate, 1 for colleges and 2 for employers. So you can talk about the seal with all of your students, but really your target are the juniors and seniors. Now, testing. The Apple test, you can see here on the orange, the languages that the Apple test includes. It is under LTI, which is Language Testing International. So I go to that languagetesting.com and there's a template that I fill out for my students to take the test. When I have students take the test, I have them home proctored. So I pay an extra $4 a test so that they can take it at home because it is computer proctored. So they have someone watching them. You don't have to pay $4 additional. You can have them test together in the school. But I just found that for me, it was a lot easier for them to take the test when they wanted to take it. You also schedule the window for testing. That window you set, it can be 2 weeks, it can be a month. You can give them 2 months. But I normally set a 3-week window that I say, look, you have to complete the test between this date and this date. The nice thing about this Language Testing International is I can just go in, click, and extend the testing window. Also, if a student does not complete the test, you do not pay for it. You don't pay for the test until after they take it. There's also something called the Avant Stamp 4S test. Now, this is the same exact type of test as the Apple. However, it assesses Hebrew, Polish, Swahili, and Yoruba. So if you have students within that population, you might want to give the Avant test. It's the same type of test as the Apple. It's the same process. I don't give the Avant because I don't have students speaking those languages. Okay, and then testing English proficiency, we talked about this. So they take the Keystone exam, typically their junior year. The WIDA testing, again, is normally during the junior, well, they test each year, but I look at the junior year. If they're not quite there, then I come back to the senior year. Testing proficiency, again, is $20. Now, if you have non-traditional languages, students can, and this is through, again, LTI, they can complete an oral proficiency interview and a written proficiency test. The cost of that is a total of $55. So it is more expensive for non-traditional languages, but it's a way that they can earn the seal. If students take advanced placement, our students take it through the school. So it's only $85 since it's paid through the school. It's definitely more. I think it's like 120 if they don't take the AP exam through the school. How to pay for the Apple. All right, there's a couple ways here. So there is Title III funding that school districts should have earmarked for EL students. So if you have an EL population, check with your administration about funding. There are educational grants available. You might have school funds. For example, I run an after-school elementary program. It costs $10 for 10 weeks of lessons. I have funds that come in from that. I use that fund for the testing for Apple tests. So, and that completely covers. You could have students pay, but then we run into equity as far as economically disadvantaged students. So I try and steer clear of the students paying. There's something called the BEST Act, which is a federal initiative to provide $10 million in funding to schools in the US to help pay for assessments. Right now, it's sitting either in the House, I think it's right now sitting in the House of Representatives to be voted upon. So the BEST Act is hopefully going to get passed to provide $10 million worth of funding for schools. Okay, so once the kids take the test, whether it's the Apple test, the AP test, I compile the testing data. I then share the results with students. If you give the Apple test, you actually you can print out their results in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So it shows them exactly where they are in each of those areas. I give that to the students so they can see where they are. I then compile the data. If they reached intermediate high proficiency, I then offer them Seal of Biliteracy. I give them a certificate and a medal. All right, so the certificate I created, I'll show you in a second what it looks like. So I created a certificate. The medal I order, and I have the link in a slide or two. So each student gets a certificate and medal. I notify school administration. I contact local newspapers, publish the information. The school, they publish it on Twitter. They publish it on the webpage. So it is made public. I also am planning this coming year, it's to invite state representatives to attend an official awards ceremony. I was fortunate when PDE came here to announce the official Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy, the EL students who earned the Seal of Biliteracy were present at the press release. So we had state representatives here and we had an entire award ceremony for those students. Here's the seal. So basically certificate that I created, very simplistic, just saying it's awarded to a student for obtaining high level proficiency in English and whatever language. Also, they should satisfy all high school graduation requirements. We congratulate you, recognize your perseverance in achieving biliteracy skills. So this Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy, the logo you have access to. You just need to email PDE and they'll give you access to that logo. So you will have access. The medals. This is, and I have the link on here. So like when I post this on the PSMLA webpage, you can click on this link. It is crownawards.com. This is the exact medal that we use. So it's a Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy logo on the medal. The cost varies. It's not that expensive. I want to say it's like maybe, depending on the number you order, it might be $10, but I'm going to say it's probably around $5 or less if you order a lot. Here is the logo. And again, at the bottom, you can see you just request the official Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. Here's the link. And again, I'll post the PowerPoint. You can just click on the link. Now, this is something that I've been trying to get the word out. So if you are in contact with schools already offering the seal, please, please let them know this. Official documentation. This needs to be added to the high school transcript. I was speaking to college professors in a webinar, and they said, Sherry, that needs to be on high school transcript so colleges can award credit, because the only thing colleges look at when they look at like AP exams or they look at grades, it has to be an official document from the school. They use the transcript. So it's important in the bottom of the transcript, in the notes section, to include Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy, earned in whatever the student earned it in, the proficiency level, the assessment used. For example, maybe it was the AP Spanish Language and Culture exam. Maybe it was the apples, and then the date that they received it. So that way colleges can award credit. And I'm speaking next weekend to an entire conference of college professors to try and get this, the initiative passed on. Okay, so that is all Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. All right, I'm going to do a short little piece on the Global Seal of Biliteracy. So Global Seal is basically, it's very similar to the Pennsylvania Seal, but the difference is this. Anyone can apply for the Global Seal. You, as a teacher, as a world language teacher, you can test and earn a Global Seal. College students, elementary age children, so anyone can apply. This document is an official, unique, serial numbered document. It is also internationally recognized, and it also crosses state lines. So it's recognized anywhere in any state in the US. Now, the difference with this is it starts at intermediate mid proficiency up through advanced high. So if you have students that do not obtain intermediate high, but they're intermediate mid, you can then register them for a Global Seal. This is free once they take the test, proficiency testing. So all I do is go onto that website, theglobalseal.com. I fill in the students that earned intermediate mid. I put in there what test they took, the intermediate mid proficiency, and they send me free certificates and seals, like stickers that I can put right on it. They're very professional looking. Now, Global Seal of Biliteracy, like I said, you could take this as a teacher. There are 3 different levels for Global Seal. So functional, working, and professional. So for my students that get like a 3 on the AP exam, they would get functional. I also double dip. Students that get a 4 and a 5, I also have them, I also put in for Global Seal. So those students that get a 4 or 5 on, say, the AP exam, they get 2 certificates. They get one, the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy certificate. They also get the Global Seal of Biliteracy certificate. So that way they actually get 2. Professional fluency. There is no test that the high school students take for advanced high. So basically high school students test for intermediate mid intermediate high, or advanced low. So there is no advanced high level for high school students on these proficiency exams I'm showing you. This chart just compares the two. So if you look at the middle column, the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy targets high school graduates, the globals for anyone. The Pennsylvania Seal's intermediate high, global is intermediate mid, up through high, up through advanced high. Pennsylvania Seal is only recognized in the state of Pennsylvania, where the global is worldwide. The cost, okay, the cost is identical because they say, if you go into Global Seal, they say it's free. It is not free. You still have to prove proficiency, which means you still have to take this exam of $20 for an Apple test or a Stamp 4S. And then the difference again, the Pennsylvania Seal is English and a second language. The Global Seal is any two languages. So you might be fluent in French and Portuguese. You can get the Global Seal, and that's why it's international. So it's any two languages. Now there we go. On the Pennsylvania or the PSMLA website, I put a reporting form, and I'm going to update it shortly. The reporting form, I would really, really appreciate if you offer the Seal of Biliteracy this year. Once you get the results, please go on to PSMLA and fill out my quick Google form that we can track the schools, universities offering the seal. Now, why would you want to do that? First of all, one, to recognize your institution and the students, because I'm going to publish on the PSMLA webpage those schools offering the seal and what languages and so on. But also it's going to help us with PSMLA to identify areas where we need to promote the seal. So there might be, I know Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, there are definitely schools in those both arenas, but I'm looking for more schools throughout the whole state. So we need to see where we need to target. So that information should be reported by August 30th. Now, why not till August 30th? Students who take the AP exam do not typically, they normally take it as a senior. They don't get their results till July. Now, what do I do with that? This past summer, I had a little award ceremony for the AP test takers to give them their certificates and medals, take pictures, do another press release with those students. You can just send them the certificate, the medal through the mail. It's so much nicer to do a quick, a half an hour get together, let them congratulate each other on their Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. There are links and resources that I've put and have been adding to on the PSMLA webpage. If you click on the Advocacy tab, Seal of Biliteracy, I have a bunch of resources there, links for the medals, for the reporting form, everything's there. Okay, now let me stop sharing. What questions do you have? Now I do have someone that emailed me some questions, so I'm going to take those first. So the first question is, are there universal requirements? Do a lot of schools use Apple Proficiency or AP? Yes, most schools use the AP exam and the Apple Proficiency exam. So yes. Do schools have a certain number of years students must be in a Spanish class? No, in fact, we offer at my school French, German, Spanish, and Latin. I ask the French and German teachers, do you have any students that you feel would qualify for intermediate high proficiency? Because they don't offer AP French or AP German here. And I always get a few students that I do, they're like, yes, so-and-so. So I add them to the Apple testing, and we always have students that qualify in French and German. So they don't, I mean, the number of years, it's more how proficient are they? Because again, it's reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Do juniors typically qualify for the seal? Yes. Now, the juniors, and it's great to have this done during the junior year, so then they can show colleges that they're applying to that they are proficient. Colleges also look at that for placement in leveling in the college, so they don't have to take a placement test. They can see their scores and their proficiency level. So when juniors do get the seal, I do not give them the medal nor the certificate until the senior year. So they can qualify. It will be on the transcript, but I don't have the ceremony for juniors. The ceremony is for seniors. Okay, let me open the floor here to questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
My name is Jessica. How I've taken the OPI and the WPI myself, and I remember they are brutal. They are so long. I mean, it's draining. How long is this test for the kids if it tests all 4 skills?
Okay. If they take the regular Apple test that tests reading, writing, listening, and speaking, it takes, I tell them to break it up. It takes about an hour for each, not even an hour, I'm gonna say 45 minutes, about 45 minutes for each of the skills. They do not have to take all 4 skills at one time. So I tell the students, I say, break it up. Take 2, take reading and listening one day, do writing and speaking another day. So it's about an hour and a half for one setting and then an hour and a half. So that's why, Jessica, I do computer proctoring, because honestly, I just don't have the time. So, and it gives the students the chance, because they're involved in sports and work. So it gives them the chance to test when they're free. So overall, I'm gonna say it's about 3 hours.
Okay. I've never heard of the AAPPL. Is that specifically for students through LTI?
It's through ACTFL. It's an ACTFL test.
Oh, and you can take that through Language Testing International.
That's correct. So the LTI is the Apple test, and that is linked directly to the ACTFL standards.
And that's the one that's $20.
Correct. Now,
and
again,
that would still count for the proficiency rating of intermediate high.
Correct. Oh. Make sure that you put for the testing that you're testing for Seal of Biliteracy. You'll see it. You'll see it says like regular testing, which is expensive, or testing for Seal of Biliteracy, and it's $20. And Jessica, you have to give at least one of those tests. If you give that test, like if you have non-traditional language students, the $55 is only for those students if you give at least one Seal of Biliteracy test. So let's say you only have kids taking OPIs and WPTs. The cost is a lot more. But if you give just one Seal of Biliteracy test, you qualify for the $55 special for those non-traditional language students.
Okay. Okay. And then I have one more question. Sorry to monopolize this. I know other people are saying them in the chat. For my own professional use for that global Seal of Biliteracy, do you know how long the ACTFL score is good for? Like I had to take it.
I want to say 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's 3 years. Okay.
Good. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, let me look in the chat here a second. Do you get medals for the global seal? No. They don't send them for free, and I don't think there are global seal medals. Before the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy existed, there's a group called CaliforniansTogether.com. They have amazing medals. In fact, let me grab one here. So this is kind of a generic medal that you could use with your students. So it's huge. It's about, I don't know if you can tell the size here, but it's about 2.5 inches in diameter, 2.5. The kids wore these to graduation. They were so proud. The crown medals are smaller. I don't have the crown with me. However, if you offer the global, I would go to CaliforniansTogether.com and get these. They're $5. Also, do students have to be high in all 4 areas to get the seal, or is it an average? I do the average as long as they are not low in, as long as they're not low in any of the skills. So let's say they have intermediate mid in one, and say reading. They're advanced low in writing. So what I do is the average, but I do not. I had a boy last year take the German Apple test. He scored intermediate low in writing. He was a junior. This year's going to retake it. So I tell those students, you need to retake, so they can't be in the low. Are there sample tests for the students to practice? Yes, there are sample tests on the Apple. Okay, that's all I see in the chat for the moment. All right, let me stop talking. Other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tam.
You had mentioned about like if we're thinking about exchange students for the English proficiency, if we have exchange students who join us after the like Keystone English window, so they're juniors or seniors, they're not, you know, we give that in 10th grade. What would you, is there a recommendation or something to do for those students as far as measuring their, as far as whatever the criteria would be for their English proficiency?
Yes, and I don't know if your school district has an EL teacher, but
That's me.
all our exchange students are tested when they get here with our EL teacher, and she does the WIDA.
So you would use the WIDA, their WIDA scores. Do you happen to know, like, could you use if you're using the screener tool when they first arrive, if they score high enough, would that count, or would they have to take the actual access? Because some kids don't qualify. Some kids already, you screen them out, if that makes sense.
Can you see, I don't know, I'm not familiar with that. Can you see their proficiency level? Like, do you know if they're intermediate high on the screening?
You do get on the screener, you get a result. You still get, yes, you get an overall score, you get a score in each one of the 4 domains, but it's not as exhaustive as the access.
I would say as long as they're intermediate high, as long as it's, I mean, they have to be intermediate high in speaking and writing. So because of the OPI, WPT, that's the bare minimum, is reading, is speaking and writing. So as long as you can see they're proficient in those 2 and they're intermediate high in English, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
I do know how the Global Seal of Biliteracy or the PA Seal would compare to the DELF. I teach college and high school through Pitt, and they are looking at starting to offer the DELF for college and high school students.
I've never heard of that, in fact.
Oh, okay. It's the European test.
Okay.
For all capitalized DELF. I'm not sure what it stands for.
I think that's just for French.
Okay, is that just for French?
Yeah, Diplôme des études de la langue française, I think.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm
gonna look into that. I've never heard of that. Okay, DELF.
Yeah, well, I teach French, so I always, we just had a meeting and the professor was like, it's recognized internationally and it does levels, but not the same levels as actual.
And colleges now, in fact, I did a webinar with PACE. I don't know if you're familiar with PACE. I did a webinar with them last year, or actually in the spring, and many of them did not know about the Global Seal of Biliteracy. And that really, for college students, I mean, that's the avenue colleges really should go towards, because the cost is minimal. And because it's going to be $20 to take the Apple test. Or if they have testers at the college for OPI, WPT, they just need to show that they're proficient. And again, the Global Seal, it's free. So once you prove proficiency at the college level, that would be great to reward those students.
Yeah, I feel like the DELF is going to be very expensive for students to take, because I think we're going to have to go to Philadelphia, and we live in Harrisburg. So
okay,
might be a better option. And just to let you know, Bellefonte is up in the sticks outside of State College.
Oh, so it's north of you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very small.
Okay, so Bellefonte. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let me look at the chat here. I saw a couple more questions coming in. Okay. Yes, exchange students do take tests to come to the US, but we have a student this year from Spain, and her English proficiency definitely is not reflected on what they said she was. So our EL teacher tested her and she came here, they said she was a intermediate high. She definitely is not. The WIDA score, she did not get a 4.5. So I would just say it's best to test them once they get here. How long does it take? Okay, the Apple results. It does not take long at all to get the Apple results back. If they take the reading, writing, listening, speaking, the regular Apple test, the results come back in less than a week. If they take the OPI and WPT, someone has to, of course, grade the written part. So it varies. It normally takes, I say, at least 2 weeks, if not 3, for those results. I test my students normally in March, but I'm thinking this year of testing them in maybe November. If they're taking the Apple, that way they have the results back by, like, say, December for colleges, because that way they could then have it on their college application saying they are bilingual, that they are, they obtained the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. I normally did not test them till March, and I knew by April, the end of April, who was getting the seal.
And I can tell you, as I don't mean to interrupt, I'm in my car, I apologize. My internet went out at my school, but I'm a director of ESL or ELD or whatever you want to, whatever acronym you want to use at the time. And foreign exchange students are supposed to be screened when they come in.
I know we do. I know our
that is
district.
a requirement.
Okay. All right. So they should be tested.
It's actually a state requirement. If you look on the state website, it says that's a requirement for foreign exchange students to be screened by your EL teachers.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you,
So
Amy.
you should know that. You should know the people should know whatever their level is, because they will use the WIDA screener. So you should be able to know the level of all your foreign exchange students, because you are supposed to screen them when they come in.
Thank you. That's good to know.
You're welcome.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, I see Trisha just put in here, the Delph is much more expensive than $20. All right, so again, that's why most people use the Apple, or again, the Avant. The Avant stamp 4S test is the same price. It's also $20. Okay, I'm going to hang on here. So I'll be here if you want to hang on and ask like one-on-one questions. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If you do offer the seal, please email me. Let me know that you are offering the seal. It helps me kind of keep track of where we are in Pennsylvania. If you